Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of September 30th, 2018. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. What an amazing week it is. We have an important sky playing out right now, and it starts right out of the gate. Pluto will be moving direct. Now, whenever a planet is retrograde, as Pluto has been for a little over 5 months now, its energies are considered to be turned inward and become more personal. It is during a retrograde cycle of a given planet that we are asked to integrate the spiritual qualities and to integrate some of the lessons that this planet represents for us. Pluto is a representative of a whole lot of things. A very wide variety as part of the human experience. We often think of Pluto, when we talk about Pluto, we talk about transformation. We talk about evolution. We talk about growth and rebirth. And these are beautiful qualities. These are the higher, more elevated qualities of Pluto. But what often happens is that in order for a transformation to occur, we have to realize what isn't working. And the way that most of us come to realize that is normally because we've tried a certain thing, we've wanted something to work out a certain way, and we've been pushing for it, and we realize it isn't going to happen, and we are asked then to surrender. Surrender is an important part of any process of change because it asks that we trust the process. But also, very often, people don't change until they have to. And what makes them have to is that life hurts. There are things that don't feel comfortable, that don't feel easy, that feel challenging, or maybe downright painful. Pluto can represent the things that are buried within us that we are aware of, the secrets that we hold, that we don't necessarily tell everybody, and the parts of ourselves, and particularly our past, that we like to keep private. But then we have certain moments, right? Whether they're collective moments, cultural moments, or in our own individual lives, when we find that there is a stirring taking place, and we are finding ourselves having to look at these very things that we don't always talk about. So we are, yes, experiencing this as a collective, but in our own journeys, and as you interact with people, as you move about your lives, as you move about your day, you may find, as we're starting this week, that more people are feeling vulnerable and feeling emotional. Chances are the energies are particularly intense. And part of the intensity is accepting what is really there, accepting what is really buried within us, and accepting our own truth. That can be one of the hardest things to actually embrace, to understand that those rejected part of ourselves, those things that we don't want to look at, those things that we'd rather forget that we have been, or that we have experienced, or that we have walked before, that we once identified with and no longer do, they are part of our story, and they are part of what makes us who we are today. And it is who we are today, exactly as we are, with everything that we've walked, is still worthy of love and is worthy of being present. Pluto is not necessarily the easiest energy in terms of how it can sometimes represent the pain that we hold as well. Some hold it in their bodies, some hold it in their psyche, but there is no life without pain. It is part of the world that we have created. And Pluto can represent some of our most intense wounding that has taken place. But what I'm especially encouraged by is, as much as Pluto can represent pain, can also represent elevation, can represent that sense of being reborn so that we no longer take on values that maybe were not our own, so that we release emotional states that no longer serve us from being fully present and from being able to fully appreciate how it is and where it is that life is moving us towards greater love and greater wisdom. It is wisdom, after all, that depth of perception, that ability to recognize what is really going on underneath the surface, that is part of the blessing of Pluto. And it is by being willing to be honest, mostly with ourselves, especially with Pluto, it can be a very personal process, but it is in that sense of being honest with ourselves that true power and true transformation can be found. Pluto as a planet also represents alchemy, and alchemy is the ancient philosophy or practice of turning lead into gold. Now, this was at one time, millennia ago, a very literal process. There were people who attempted to turn lead into actual gold. However, we have come to understand this as a spiritual process, as a process that can be associated with a psychoanalysis or a therapeutic process that you may go through. And as part of a therapeutic process, sharing, having someone that you can speak your truth to is powerful. It is in itself a process of alchemy. It is in itself the opportunity to take what it is that has felt heavy and like a burden and not just cumbersome, but truly has held you down, and to turn it into your most valuable resource within you, to turn it into a great source of wealth. It is in the act of actually sharing that transformation is able to occur. It happens simultaneously. We speak a thing, we admit a thing to ourselves, or we speak it to another. We allow another person to stand witness to our experience. And in that act alone, and in that moment alone, both people are changed as a result. And there's something very powerful and just downright magical as alchemy can get, that happens when we allow ourselves to acknowledge the experiences of others and our own experiences as well. Now, I'm not saying one experience is better than another, okay? I'm not wanting to judge anybody's truth at all, because truth is in some ways universal. We all have our own experiences of it. And we all connect with an energy that we consider what is true and what is true for us. But at the same time, there are specifics about each situation. There are nuances as well. And we can honor the fact that we each hold our own truth without taking it on, without making it personal, while honoring the nuances that may be there. Holding that space of safety, to allow it to be safe, to speak what it is that we need to admit the things for ourselves. Sometimes that safety can be found with another. It is Pluto, after all, that has to do with profound intimacy with another person. And there are times when it is with another person that we find our truth and that we heal what it is that has come before. However, there is also power in being able to be with ourselves, at peace with ourselves, and at peace with our journey and where it has brought us to today. As Pluto moves forward now, a lot of people are going to be addressing some pretty strong emotions, strong memories, and powerful experiences. There will be catalysts happening for a lot of us out there that very likely are going to be facilitated by conversation, communication, and what it is we are interacting with in terms of media, that's social media and otherwise. Because Mercury is going to be speaking with Pluto, just as Pluto is changing direction, standing still in the sky, beginning to move forward. It is Mercury early in the week that is going to connect in a conversation of tension with Pluto. It is a conversation that astrologers call a square, and it represents motivation. It represents tension. It represents a sense of hearing something, perceiving something, sharing something. And that in and of itself serves as the catalyst for some deeper awareness, some deeper emotion coming to the surface. It is very important, especially in the early part of the week, that we are being as kind and gentle to each other and to ourselves as possible. These are times that can, in some ways, change people, and we hope change people for the better. And the way that we can actually ensure that we are all moving in a direction of greater love and greater wisdom, of using this energy that can have a particularly provocative experience and actually channeling it in a direction towards meaningful, loving, and wise change, is to ensure that we are doing that for ourselves, to ensure that that is the path that we are walking in our own lives, that it isn't just about what someone else is experiencing, but we are owning our own emotions, our own histories, our own experiences, and we are choosing to see the love and wisdom in them. It is in this act, whether energetically, but also literally as well, we give other people permission to do the same, to choose to be more loving, to choose to be more wise. It's not always the intuitive choice. That is true. Very often, our most intuitive choices are based on our earliest conditioning. And not all of us are born into an environment. Our earliest environments are ones that encourage love and wisdom. They might for part of the time, and we may feel that. But very often, for most of us as human beings in the world that we have created, our earliest experiences can be complex. They can be a mix of emotions, of emotional states that we got used to being in. And so how is it that you can now, in this present moment, even when it is intuitive to be angry, to be defensive, to project onto other people qualities that you don't want to own within yourself, where is it that in those spaces within our psyche, within our soul, within our spirit, and within our moments, can we actually choose to bring greater love and greater wisdom? That will be part of the invitation now, because Mercury speaking with Pluto, just in and of itself, this type of conversation can make people react to a particular moment, to a particular conversation, to a particular prompt, from a wellspring within them that isn't necessarily about this moment. Part of the reason that we do the work, part of the reason that we do the sometimes difficult work of being honest with ourselves, of speaking to another, of searching our souls, it's not easy work to do. And it involves a deeper and deeper layer of healing of what was. We do it so that we can live more in the present. And we do it so that the past and the pains of the past and the wounding of the past doesn't define us in this moment. It doesn't have to determine our present nor our future. And that is why we do the sometimes difficult work. But there are moments when we may interact with another person and something is happening in this moment. And we are having a particularly strong reaction. Sometimes it is about this moment, and there is power in acknowledging that. There is power in acknowledging where it is and how it is you are experiencing how you're being treated or how you're being spoken to. But what also happens very often is that something seems very subtle on the surface. Somebody else may think it's not a big deal, but it's actually provoking something much more deep within us. It's activating some very old experiences that we haven't truly looked at, that we haven't truly healed. And so in some way, on a level of psyche, on a level of energy, a part of us is still there in that past, in that wound. And so we have this moment, we have a conversation, and that wound is opened just a little bit. And so we may have an even stronger reaction to this moment that may not necessarily have to do with what is happening in that present time. I'll give you an example. If I may, I don't drive, but I have observed that what we call road rage is pretty much always, I would say always, not about what is happening in that moment. It is not about somebody cutting you off or somebody, made a certain turn and scared you or something like that. Most of the time, and I have found the people who are really good drivers, now again, I don't drive, and so this is my observation, but the people who are really good drivers, they tend to be really in the present moment. They're able to actually coordinate their experience with how it is that they're maneuvering this vehicle. And also, they tend to not take it personally what other people are choosing to do. They understand that everyone's having their own experience, they're doing what they can with their own vehicles, and it's not about them, that good driver. And so it is that person who can be in the present moment, not take things personally, who's going to have a very different experience of someone who cuts them off or very quickly moves their car in front of us, than someone who on some level deep within them is taking that as a symbol of something else, is taking that as a symbol of not having their space honored, not feeling a sense of being respected, of somebody making them unsafe, feeling vulnerable, feeling angry at the fact that somebody threatened their safety and having a reaction from that place. It isn't about that moment of the way that somebody chose to change lanes. I would say always, but we could say almost always, because there's very few absolutes in life. But this becomes a really good example of how it is that we are in many ways not just about who it is that we say we are, but there are complexities and layers to our existence and our understanding. Well, it is Pluto that in many ways makes us aware of these complexities and of these layers, but more importantly, the great gift of Pluto is it offers us a choice. It offers us a choice to say to ourselves, okay, am I going to continue the pattern? Am I going to stay on automatic? Am I going to continue to live from that place of wounding and choose to wound others as a result? Or am I going to elevate the situation? Am I going to elevate the energy? Am I going to bring a spirit of transformation to where there once was pain? And we see this in all kinds of ways. People who were abused as children may be more likely to abuse their children, or they may abuse their parents when their parents get older. But what we're seeing more and more than ever before is that the people who've experienced abuse as children are choosing differently. They're choosing to be different kinds of parents. They're choosing to treat their parents with kindness and respect, even though there were experiences in the past that hurt them as a result of their parents. This is how ultimately we elevate the energy. It is by bringing awareness, and it is by staying in touch with our own feelings. That is how empathy is found. We are able to be empathetic towards others. We're able to have compassion towards others when we are more connected to the moments where we felt a lack of compassion. Right now, the energy of Pluto is especially strong. Pluto is what we call on the ecliptic. And so what that means is, not trying to, get all science here on you with the nerd hat, but essentially Pluto has an orbit. It moves around the sun, but it's not like other planets like the Earth, for example, which moves, pretty perfectly in a circular pattern and on a particular highway, if you will. So there's a road, and the Earth is always going to walk down that road as it walks around the sun. Mercury does that, has its own road. It's always going to be on that road. It may waver a little bit, it might change lanes a little bit, but it's going to stay on its own road, larger road, and won't waver beyond that. However, Pluto is a little bit different. Pluto doesn't like to stick to one particular road, and there are times when Pluto is closer to the Earth than at other times, as part of traveling, not a near perfect circle, but rather in an oval position. And that's why Pluto will spend much more time in one sign than it may in another. So right now is one of those times. The last time was the late 30s that we had Pluto very close to the Earth in the ecliptic, so in the orbit of the sun. And now we're having Pluto very close this year as well. And it's going to be over 100 years before Pluto comes this close to the Earth again and comes back into sort of the orbit, the ecliptic. And that's it. Now I'm putting my science hat away. That was as much science as I'm going to get. So what this essentially means is that Plutonian energy is essentially that much stronger for us now. We're getting to see our wounding collectively and individually. But the great thing is that more and more of us are choosing not to live from that place of our wounding. More and more of us, as part of our own unique journeys, are choosing to elevate from that place and instead bring healing where there was pain. Bring transformation where the energy was stagnant, and bring a renewed perspective to what they had experienced, and staying connected to their emotions so that they can now have that much more compassion for others and for themselves. That is part of the great opportunity for us right now, and especially as Pluto is moving forward. All of us in some way are going to be making a choice, are going to be making a decision in our own lives. It's a deeply personal process. Where is it that you're going to continue the pain? Where is it? Are you going to elevate? Are you going to change? Are you going to bring love? And are you going to move towards wisdom? That really is the choice now. And I do think that we now are older souls than ever before. We now, as people, will pack in several lifetimes into what used to take a lifetime or more to figure out. And so if you think about it, up until very recently in human history, you pretty much knew what your life was going to be. Like, your options were pretty limited, depending on the family that you were born into. Your path was pretty much set. Who you're going to marry was pretty much set for you. And now you look at how our lives are now. It's very normal to have more than one major relationship over the course of our life. It's very normal now in much of the world to have more than one career path over the course of a life. And I think it's because in many ways we're packing in those several lifetimes into one lifetime. If we had something to resolve with a particular soul, before we'd need 100 lifetimes to understand it and to resolve the karma and to understand those lessons. Now we can get the lesson and we can get the karma and what it was meant to be for us in a few years, right? We get those 4 years, we get those 7 years, we get those 2 years, and we understand the lesson and we're able to evolve forward. And if we are lucky, or if it is written for us, if it is part of our life path, sometimes we may have somebody who isn't just there for 2 years or 4 years or 7 years, but is actually walking with us for an extended period of time, facilitating each other's spiritual growth without taking responsibility for each other's spiritual growth. Now, this understanding of partnership, of spiritual partnership, actually, I came across this idea, this articulation from Gary Zukav. He's written a whole book about spiritual partnerships. I don't remember the exact name of that book, but he did write a huge bestseller. Back in the 90s, it was a huge bestseller called The Seat of the Soul. And in that book, he had 2 chapters called Spiritual Partnerships. And that, to me, perfectly describes the segue we're going to take into Venus. Venus this week is going to stand still in the sky and go retro in the sign of Scorpio. Now, Pluto is the ruling planet of the sign of Scorpio. So there's this intimate connection playing out between Venus and Pluto now. Having Venus moving through the home sign of Pluto is adding these qualities of transformation, of looking within ourselves, of acknowledging our pain. But it is actually bringing blessings to that process. Venus is considered a benefic, which the ancients is a word that the ancients used to describe a planet that represented blessings. And so it is Venus now that is particularly close to the Earth. When a planet changes directions or is retrograde, it is especially close to the Earth. Its energies are especially magnified when it is a planet like Venus or like Mars. And so here we have Venus in the sign of Scorpio, asking us to get honest with ourselves about love. Whom do we love? Where is it that we can bring love? Where is it that love can change everything? Where is it that love can transform a situation that has been difficult? Where is it that love can transform ourselves? Where is it that a greater level of self-love and self-acceptance for who you are, the complexities of who you are, knowing that you're not just some, superficial external shell, but that there is a richness that you represent that doesn't have to be just about one thing. Your self-value doesn't have to be only about your mind or only about your appearance, but that we are complex people. And we can find beauty in all those different parts of ourselves, even those parts that have hurt in the past, even those parts that we think need to heal, even those parts that we think we need to evolve beyond, we can still find beauty in it. It is Venus now this week, going retro right around Thursday, give or take a day on either side, depending on where you are on the planet. With Venus going retrograde, it is going to bring this appreciation of how the process of transformation, the commitment to truth, looking beyond the superficial, getting to the essence of a matter and the essence of a thing is beautiful. It holds great beauty. It holds great promise. And the promise is ultimately love. The promise is that we will love more. We will love more deeply. We will love more fully. And we will love ourselves enough to actually be present in the world. If we do the work to heal the past, we're able to love that much more fully right here, right now. And we're able to move forward into our future with greater love in our hearts. And it shows up in every area of life. The sign of Scorpio is not one that cares about appearances. It wants the true emotional experience of life, of being right in there. And it wants what is real. It wants to get to the depths of feeling, the depths of our existence, and to change it from the core and allow that changed core to show up for us in our external world. It is Venus now that's going to help us to bring love to that process, love towards that journey to our essential selves. And it's going to allow us to see beauty where before we didn't. Before, when we rejected something as unseemly, as ugly, we will now be able to see that it is, even with those judgments, great beauty that is found there. We often in spiritual circles, and I know that sometimes I sort of fall into this thing of saying positive energy or negative energy or challenging energy, right? We judge them and we say, this is good, this is easy, this is a blessing, this is hard, this sucks, right? Like I see that kind of language actually being used in spiritual circles as well. At least it's honest, right? At least it's forthright. But the truth is that this is a very plain dichotomy that doesn't suit the complexity of the human experience. Actually, there is something very sweet and very beautiful in those challenging times. They make us who we are. They help us to understand what is really within us. You can say that you're loving, you can say that you're wise, but then you go through pain. You go through sadness, you go through loss, you go through grief, or you go through a moment that provokes you. You go through an experience that challenges you, that raises some vulnerabilities within you. And it is how you deal with it. It's not the experience itself, it is how you deal with it that truly represents the love and the wisdom in your life, that truly allows you to choose to be loving, to be wise, because it doesn't mean anything if it's not something that you are choosing. If you haven't done the work to be more wise and to be more loving, you'd never know that you are wise and loving. You'd never know that it is ultimately love and wisdom that is worth reaching for. And I don't want to say fighting for, but certainly working towards. It is worth sacrificing for. And that is part of Venus now retrograde, or will go retrograde this week, in the sign of Scorpio. It helps us to see the beauty in the choice to see what's real, the beauty in the sacrifice, knowing that it will lead us somewhere good. It is a sacrifice to sit down with somebody and share your truth. It is, in many ways, sacrificing who you knew yourself to be with some glimmer of faith that you can be more, that you can become something more, and that in the process you will be changed. And in the process, you will, in some way, heal and move towards greater love and greater wisdom as well. Well, thank you so much for watching. I'm so grateful for it. What are you excited about this week? What are you loving? What are you hopeful for? What change is it that you are anticipating, that you're feeling as we enter this week? What emotions are stirring within you? If it feels safe for you to share, please do share in the comments below on this YouTube page. I absolutely love reading you guys, and I appreciate your trust. I appreciate your honesty, and I love seeing you guys interact with each other as well. I think that it's beautiful, and it's part of creating an amazing community right here on YouTube together. You can find out what all this energy this week means for you and your sign by logging on to nadiyashah.com. Sign up to be one of my superstars. Superstars get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week, unlimited access to special horoscopes, and so much more. All of this in the superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there. And of course, the Venus retrograde special. There's a special up on YouTube for your sign. You can get it in the superstar space and on my website, nadiyashah.com. If you already have the Venus special horoscope, thank you so much for purchasing that. I'm truly so grateful for it. And please do rewatch it. Rewatch it again this week, because the themes that I talk about in that video for you and your sign are going to be arising this week in particular. It is an important time to pay attention, especially with Venus. What happens now is not necessarily as it seems on the surface. Because it is ultimately a retrograde planet, it means that we are going within. We're having to look at ourselves. And if it feels like something happened or almost happened or is on the verge of happening and then it dissipates or it changes, don't worry, because chances are we are going to see this week very differently once we get to December. In the middle of December, in the final days of this extended Venus retrograde season, that is when Venus will return to where she is now. And that is when we will get another look, we'll get a deeper appreciation, and we'll get another understanding of how it is that we can see more lovingly that which felt before like a burden. But also just see more literally what is happening for us where it comes to matters of love, where it comes to matters of partnership. If it feels like something happened this week and then it kind of went away, or something happened and started this week and it's sort of got its own momentum, it will look different. You will get this further clarity once we get to the middle of December. And of course, I will be here to talk about it every step of the way. I have brand new classes coming up very soon. This coming weekend, so not the weekend that this week starts, but towards the end. All new classes as part of synchronicityuniversity.com. Now, these are classes that are based on the autumn series, is based on some of the most popular questions asked of any astrologer. And so you can take an individual class, you can get a discount if you sign up for all 4 classes, but every Saturday I will be teaching these classes live, online, in real time. It's going to be a lot of fun, and if you can join us live, that's amazing. If you can't, that's okay too, because you will get, all participants will get a download video of the class to learn from infinitely going forward. And I hope that you absolutely enjoy them. I hope you enjoy those classes for a long time to come and continue to learn from them as well. I've got a whole bunch of events coming up that I'm really very excited about. One is in January, being hosted by the incredible evolutionary astrologer Maurice Fernandez, and it is happening right here in Mexico. It is an experience that we will be having together, a spiritual experience, looking at our own evolution and how astrology can help us with that. So I will be a special guest as part of this event, which is happening just a couple hours from where I live in Cancun. So it's not too far from here. So I'm really excited about it. I'm so excited to share my love of where I live and why it is such a powerful spiritual place to me with all the participants. So if you'd like to learn more about that, please click on the link in the descriptions below. Other events include in May, I will be in May of 2019, Seattle and Vancouver. Labor Day weekend 2019, I will be in Baltimore. So there's lots of amazing things to look forward to and events coming up. And I'll be telling you a lot more about the different events and be adding more events in the weeks and months ahead. And I just love meeting friends and fans. Like one of my favorite things really is to just hug people in real time and to be able to share that moment. It means so much. So thank you to everybody who ever has come out to a live event. And thank you to those who will be coming out to live events as well. And of course, online events are always happening. Lots to look forward to there. I'll be doing something with Astrology University coming up next month, in October, and I'll share more about that very soon, as well as with Astrology Hub as well. And I'll be sharing more about that in the weeks and months ahead. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. My hope for all of us is that we use this energy to move ourselves in a positive direction. You know, when I talk about energy like this, I know that it can be challenging for some people. For other people, they're able to embrace it that much more. But regardless of where you are and how you're feeling as you start this week, just know that you can use whatever emotion is with you to move yourself somewhere beautiful, to move yourself in a direction of greater love and greater wisdom as well. Thank you again. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.